Let's introduce our first guest. He's a familiar friend we got to know a few years ago as an assistant coach at BYU, and we're happy to see him back on Kevin Young's new staff. Our pleasure to welcome Chris Burgess to the Wise Guys. Not only is he the tallest assistant coach in college basketball, you're the tallest guest we've ever had here in studio, but fortunately, you fit. I think you might have had to bend over to come in. Welcome.
No, thank you. Thank you for having me. What a great setup, by the way.
How about this?
When I was asked to come on the show, it was like, do you want to do it Zoom or do you want to go in studio? I was like, man, I got to see what this studio is like. So I'm happy to I'm super grateful to be here.
We're so excited to have you here. We've been talking about it for a while. Let's start with the news of the day, with the passing of former NBA star, longtime college broadcaster Bill Walton. In your opinion, what impact did he have on the game?
Yeah, obviously his days at UCLA and the impact he had in the NBA. I think he won 2 championships, 6th man of the year with the Celtics. Most recently, one of the most purest, commentators in college basketball, and being a part of the Pac-12 in the last year of the Pac-12, he called a number of games for us, and he's just so genuine in and thorough in how he goes about his game notes. He usually, when you call your head coach will put it on the assistants to kind of go over the scout or go over to each player. And so I get a call and I pick it up, right? And he's like, Mr. Chris Burgess, this is Bill Walton, right? And so I can't remember what game. Well, it was at UCLA, right? Okay. And so he's going over our whole team, like from the top 15 guys all the way to the walk-ons, right? And he wants to know, don't tell me anything about basketball. Tell me a story about them, right? I want to know about them. And like, we're on the phone for probably an hour and 15 minutes, which was about my commute, right? From Lehigh up to the U. And I was just so impressed with, how thorough he was. So then we get to Pauley Pavilion at shoot-around game day, and he comes walking towards me, right? And he's got these notes. Like, everyone now is everything's electronic. He has these notes, written out notes, and there's got to be this big of margins, right? And every single player, and he's like, okay, which one's so-and-so, which one's so-and-so, which one's so-and-so. And then I'd point to him and he'd spit off the story that we had talked about the day before. So huge loss to the college basketball world, the NBA world, and just basketball in general. He touched so many lives. I was always super grateful and humbled every time he knew who I was, right? And the coaching staff.
When you were at Duke, he's been in the game for so long.
Yeah.
Do you have a Bill Walton moment of, hey, you're about the same size, look eye to eye to each other?
Yeah, the funniest thing for me was the same day. First of all, I'm very close to his kids, both Luke and Nate. Nate is the older brother, and then Luke, who played at Arizona in the NBA, is coached in the NBA, and then Chris Walton was at San Diego State when I played in the Mountain West, and so we're all Southern California guys, and so I grew up playing with or against Nate, Luke, and Chris for a long time, so I've known the family. And so the funny story for me and Bill was, we're at Pauley Pavilion, and there's a player that we did not talk about on the list, and so Jackson Brenchley, who played at Utah, runs up to Bill Walton and is like, He's like, Jackson Brenchley, shakes his hand, and he goes off the story. And then one of our players goes like, hey, I'm Brandon. And he looks at it and he goes, Brandon, you did not make my list. And just kind of fist bumps him and moves on.
Bill Walton, he's the one guy I would, if I'm just flicking through the channels, no matter what the game was, I would stop just to hear some of his anecdotes, because he would always go so deep about the universities and backstories. He took it to a different level. He is absolutely going to be missed.
He will be.
Chris, I've been wanting to hear your opinion on this whole House versus the NCAA case. So when a player or a parent asks you now, moving forward, hey, what does this mean, Chris, as a coach, if he comes to BYU? What's this House versus NCAA, this proposed settlement? And not only what do you tell a parent or a kid, but in your opinion, what impact does this have on college sports moving forward?
There's just so many new rules and guardrails we're all trying to figure out. Thank goodness we have a compliance office that explains everything to us and gives us feedback of what we can and can't say, or what this is supposed to mean, or how this affects our sports or that sports. So this early on, it's something we're going to meet with compliance after the holiday here in Memorial Day, and we'll be able to kind of best gauge how to go about that. Yeah.
There's a paradigm shift, certainly, of paying players to play, and that's exactly where we're going. you played the game at the highest level. Have you been able to wrap your mind around that notion of a college kid getting paid to play?
Yes. When I got into this coaching profession, one of the advice I got was like, adapt to change. And I always kind of think of the many coaches that I played for, and the best ones were the ones that were adapting. So I look at this is where college is going. So we have to be able to adapt. There's no reason to complain about it or, whine about it or say, back in my day we did that, right? It doesn't matter. We have to adapt. Right now, is there a group thread with some former players of ours that we talk about what we could have potentially made?
There has to be.
There is, and actually I'll run into, former Cougar Jackson Emery. He coaches my kid, my 12-year-old son. And Jackson, I'll be like, Jackson, you don't understand. If you had hit the transfer portal, do you know how much money you could, it's the same answer I would give. And just, you wouldn't trade your experiences you had for anything. Right, that's the way I guess us older players kind of look at it. Is just we wouldn't trade my experience with Coach K or Rick Majerus for any money in the world, just because they changed our DNA and kind of who we are as men today. But I go back to it's a different landscape, and so we're completely adapting as coaches, and we're going with the flow, and we're trying to learn on the fly. So it's been a fun time.
Chris, when you look at NIL and all of these things that we all wish we had when we played, right? And now with this new ruling where the schools can maybe have a little bit more control. I don't know. Maybe that's what it means in the long run.
Maybe.
Overall, is this paying the players and the universities being more involved? Is that good for college basketball in your mind, or is it bad for college basketball?
I think it's, hopefully it's going to be good for it, regardless if the university and the Power 5 conferences can pay their players now. I still think there's going to be an NIL collective on top of that, right? I think it'll be two separate entities. But I think it can be good. I think it'd be good in terms of how, we educate our players, in terms of the opportunities they have and the networking possibilities that are through these contracts they potentially sign with the collective. I just think that, especially a place like BYU, the networking here is just second to none. And so if you can find someone that, is able to take advantage of their name, image, and likeness, and to build a relationship and build a networking, right? The potential money that you can get during your time here as a playing career is probably not going to be life-changing, but maybe that relationship you build, right, and the knowledge you learn from it, maybe that's life-changing when this basketball stops bouncing, because it is going to stop. And so that's kind of the education factor that we need to help with our players moving forward.
BYU assistant basketball coach Chris Burgess on the Wise Guys tonight, live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and wiseguys.com. Mark Comer of the Royal Blue Collective has been here a few times. And just last week, we were talking about the NIL and BYU, and in his opinion, BYU is right around the top 15 in the country in NIL support and strength. Are you seeing that?
I am 100% seeing that.
Really?
It's so fantastic to see the support. I think especially when you step away for a couple of years and you understand how the brand that BYU is worldwide, right? And the support and the resources and how much people care, right? They just live and die a lot with BYU athletics, and it's so fun to come back, right, and to feel that embrace and love, support in the brand. Just finished father and son's camp, and you have all these people who just love this university. And so we've seen that, right? We've seen that with the players we've been able to recruit, the players we've been able to sign, the players we've been able to keep, right? Sometimes your best recruits are the ones you keep.
Exactly.
And it has a lot to do with I think, of course, this university, of course, the newness of Coach Young and his staff, but it also has to do with the collective, what you're talking about 100%.
With the recent addition of four-star guard Elijah Crawford, everybody's excited about another signee that's way up there in terms of national rankings. I think, is it 4 scholarships that you guys still have that you can fill for this season?
Yeah,
or
it is
are
4.
you down to 3? I think it's 4.
It's 4 right now. We're super positive that we're going to get this down to 2 or 3 in the next, hopefully 72 hours, but we're at 4 right now. But we're happy with the core that we have currently, all in and committed, and we're excited kind of the next 4. We have to fill 4 though.
Yeah, and you're telling us we're going to hear something next 72, so that gets us all excited about that. So I know you're also focusing a lot on 2025.
Yeah.
Next year's class. And we know you can't name names while you're recruiting, but how do you feel the process is going for recruits a year out?
Yeah, I think it's great. We just actually finished. You're so focused on 2024, right? Into this whole off season that you tend to forget the 25 class and the 26 class and the 27 class. But last weekend was the first AAU or grassroots live period where we could actually be out for 3 days, and you have the Adidas, EYBL, Nike, Under Armour event, and then there's a New Balance event. And so, we only had 4 coaches on staff, right? So all 4 of us are going out. So that was kind of the first time we'd actually kind of reconnected with those classes. And we got really excited about the 2025s and 2026 that we're trying to get actually right now, trying to get some of these top kids on campus. So it's really exciting. We think we have a lot to sell, a lot to bring, and when we bring them on campus with what Coach Young is bringing to BYU, we're excited to get them here.
Elijah Crawford bought in. 6'4",
yeah,
or actually I think 6'2", but a 4-star guard coming in as a freshman, which you love to see.
We're super excited, and the one thing we talked about Elijah and we talked to Dallin too is what a better point guard to learn from too, and potentially play alongside as well is Dallin Hall, right? Yeah. He's such a point guard's dream, and so Elijah was super excited to kind of work next to him, learn from him, compete against him every single day. This kid's love and respect for Brandon Dunstan goes a long way to turn down or decommit from a place like Stanford. It's one of the most prestigious universities in all of colleges, right? All universities, and so for him to choose BYU, and we showed his family, according to the Wall Street Journal in 2024, how prestigious BYU was and where it ranked in terms of academic institution, and that went a long way. Brandon's relation went a long way, and then obviously what Coach Young's message and style of play went a long way.
I thought one of the biggest things was with Kiba Keita coming, 6'8" center who plays bigger than that. You were developing him up there. You came here, and then Blaine and I were like going, let's just see. And then all of a sudden he pops into the portal, and then BYU had to win him over because there were plenty of suitors. But now you have a center here, which probably the first time since Yoli Childs. I mean, how big of a deal is that? We're
so excited about him. First of all, I'm very grateful for the opportunity to continue coaching, being part of his career. Because when I started coaching him a couple of years ago, he's just this super raw piece of meat that's just learning. Right? He was a volleyball player growing up. His brother's a professional volleyball player in Italy, and he's just this athletic specimen that's built like a Greek god. Right? And he's such a listener. He's such a worker. And so for us to have the opportunity to coach him, for the BYU fans to be able to embrace him, they're going to love him. They're just going to love everything he does, and he's so good at what he does. Like, he doesn't ever really get outside of his lane, but he is a lob threat every time down the court. He's a big time top 10 in the country in terms of block rating, offense rebound rating. He does all that, and he has the ability to switch 1 through 5 at times. And his concern, when we were talking to him, was just he didn't want to, him and Foose, he didn't want to step on Foose's toes because he looks up to Foose as such a mentor. And
they kind of came over together.
Yeah, they came over together. And so talking to Foose is like, Coach, you bring him to me, and I'll make sure he understands that I'm dying to play with them, right? And so my message, to Cable was like, look, Cable, no matter where you sign, you're going to have competition at the 5 spot. You just are, right? No matter what. But what better place to do it than with your buddy from Mali who's dying to play with you? Right, and so when Foose expressed that to Kaba and Kaba got that message, Kaba was all in.
Do you see a situation where Foose, who was very effective coming off the bench last year, doing that again?
Yeah, I think everything's kind of on the table, whether Foose come off the bench or them playing together. I think that there's places, we were watching some film with Coach Young's offense, both in Philly and in Phoenix, playing 2 bigs. Right, and playing out of some horns action or some dunker spot action, and so there's things that we can do to find ways for them to be on the floor, because one thing we've tried to really focus on, Coach Young's tried to focus on, is we want to dominate the offensive glass. And when you have a guy like Foose and Caba in there that are both top 15 in the country in offensive rebounding rate, that's the way you dominate the glass. And so we're going to try to find pockets of this game that we can play them out there together and go big, because we know. Sometimes it's all about what you can guard, right? And we know Caba can guard 1 through 4. We just know he's a switchable player, and same with Foose. And so there's going to be times they're together. So, that's what's great about competition, and they're going to be able to push each other, and they're going to be able to, obviously embrace each other at the same time. But they're so excited to be together, and so I'm excited to kind of have both of them.
Oh, yeah, I would be too. Oop, Blaine, I can't hear you. We'll get DJ to fix that. On the audio, but I think what he was going to ask.
Better?
There you are. Yeah, there you are. Welcome back.
Oh, yeah. Hey, I was just saying, Chris mentions that he's so raw with his talent, but everybody I talk to in basketball just says, oh man, like he's just scratching the surface. He's so skilled. He's so talented. Like the sky's the limit for this guy. What is there something in particular that you look at in his skill set, even though he's raw, that you go, oh yeah, this makes him unbelievably special?
Yeah, I think a number of things. I think the way that he runs the floor, and if you don't have a pass ahead like rim running dunk, he'll find his man and he seals you up for an over-the-top lob pass. I think he loves contact. There are not a lot of bigs out there that are seeking contact out. There are a lot of bigs out there that want to avoid contact. And Kaba, when he steps on the floor, is seeking out contact. So I think he's a lob threat. Anytime he screens and rolls, he's a lob threat. I think another thing he can do that he's grown so much, right, with film and work and practice is off the pick and roll, little pocket pass, like kind of what Luka Doncic is doing right now in the NBA Finals when he's getting 2 to the ball, right? The little pocket pass, and now decision making, right? Does he have a score at the rim? Is there a double team to him? Can he kick out to the 3? And so that's the area where he's really, really grown because, I think Dallin and some of these other guards that we have coming back are going to see different kind of coverages. And so Kaba knows how to play out of all these different coverages. The one area he's getting better at, right, is now as the trigger man, kind of like how Ali Khalifa was in Coach Pope's offense is the trigger man. We called it the trigger. Some people call it the connector, right, where you're hitting him at the 3-point line, and now he's the playmaker. And so I think that's where Kaba is growing. He's got to get better. He's got to be able to make the reads, right, the back cuts, the slips. Are they switching? Are they chasing? Are they going under, right? And that's stuff that we're watching film with him every single day to try to get him to understand the coverages.
Visiting with BYU assistant basketball coach Chris Burgess here on the Wise Guys. Now, I want to ask you a question that you don't have to answer directly because I don't even know if you can, but the internet's abuzz tonight because of this looking for some international foreign players to come. And I've read some things that look pretty credible about that. Without saying a name or any of that stuff, let's go back to those 72 hours. Do you feel this next couple of days Cougar Nation is going to feel pretty good?
There's a couple guys on our board that we feel pretty good about. You're never 100% confident until I guess the ink is on the paper or anything like that. But there are a couple kids that we've recently had on campus that we're chasing pretty hard that we think fill big needs and holes in our roster. So we're excited about that. Yeah, hopefully some decisions and answers can be given to the Cougs.
Wouldn't it be so much easier to just talk about it? It's like you can't talk about it till it happens, but it's so much fun to talk about when it does happen because it means so much to the direction of the program.
It does. There's a lot of momentum. I think right now with BYU basketball and BYU athletics, and so with Dallin and Richie saying they're back in, and Coach Young obviously being hired, and the staff he's putting together, and then Elijah jumping on board and Kaba jumping on board, and so you're trying to build up this momentum. And it's an exciting time. It's a big reason, why my family and I got super excited to come back here to Provo is that we wanted to be a part of this and again, right? And so, yeah, to answer your question, I always tell recruits, man, the best thing you can tell me is yes, and the second best thing you can tell me is no, because then I can move on, right? And so the worst thing you can do is not say anything. So those of you recruits, man, if you're listening, just say yes and no so we can move on. So, but we are excited. We're excited. No matter what happens over the next couple of weeks, we're so excited with the core we have coming in and the staff we have coming in and being a part of this culture. It's just really grateful.
Hey, Dave, he doesn't even need to tell me. Chris doesn't even need to tell me who it is. When he says we're going to have some news in the next 72 hours, I'm just pumped right now. Like, I'm actually excited about it. We're glad to have you on. Even if you can't name names, Chris, we're happy to have you on and tell us that something's on the horizon. Life's got a lot of twists and turns to it, right? You were at BYU with Mark and then went up to Utah.
Yeah.
I ran into you down in Vegas. You were down recruiting for Utah when I ran into you Vegas. That's just a couple of months ago. Now back in Provo with Kevin Young. In what ways, has going back and forth developed you and made you a better coach?
You know what? I think that 2 years ago when I made this decision, it was all about growth as a I always I feel like I've always had this goal to what's the best place for me to continue to grow. And, if I did take over a program today, right, where can I go do that? And so I thought I felt at the time the opportunity to go work for Craig Smith and go to a different program and listen to a different coach's voice, and then a coach to listen to my voice, right? A different coach to listen to my voice. And so, I think Craig Smith does a fantastic job up there, and they're continuing to build and grow. And, you know, what he allowed me to do game preparation wise, recruiting wise, and honestly practice wise has really helped me over the last 2 years, where I felt like if something happened or there was a head coaching, boom, Chris, you got to go be a head coach today. I feel like I'm more prepared now than I've ever been. And so it gave me a ton of confidence to come and be a part of another coach's staff, right? That, you know, I've never worked for him before, and, you know, don't know him as well as, let's say, Coach Pope or Cody Feger or Craig Smith, but I'm so grateful to be a part of his staff, and very confident that the coaches that have mentored me and tutored me up to this point have helped prepare me to come back where BYU is now in terms of a Big 12 team, and making a lot of moves and trying to get back to the NCAA tournament and win some games.
You look so much nicer in blue.
You know,
it just works. It just works with you, you know. So
you're right about that. You know, like, I mean, so it's not really a secret. I love the Los Angeles Dodgers, and I've had to wear a lot of my black Dodgers hats for the last couple of years.
That's
and so
right. That was the whole wardrobe.
Man, I finally was able to throw some Dodger blue back, and so some royal blue, and so it's just really exciting to be back. But I love blue, right? I love the color blue, and I love the way it looks.
Hey, Chris, I'm interested in your conversations with Kevin. We've talked to several of the players who come on the show with us, and really an interesting perspective that Kevin gave them about what he thought they had in their game and what he thought that they could help them with, and he really painted a vision for them. In those conversations you have with Kevin, because let's face it, you are right on the verge of being a head coach,
right?
Like, and we all know that. What convinced you in those conversations, or what did you talk about that you thought, I can go work with this guy, and this is going to be good for all of us?
You know what? That's a great question. So, Kevin Young, all he knows is the NBA, right? And I think the NBA is so forward thinking, and college basketball is always 2 or 3 years behind the NBA. And so now I give him an opportunity. So when he was talking about the staff structure, all he knows is like being in draft boards, working draft workouts. You know, he's been involved with 80 something games a year. So his sample size of his coaching resume built up from the G League to the NBA, working with Brett Brown and Frank Vogel, just that mindset that he's coming from the NBA. I was dying to be a part of it. I was dying to learn and be a part and just soak up as much knowledge as I could from someone like that. And at the same time, felt like I could really help the transition to the college game, and not just any college, but the uniqueness of BYU, BYU's college game. And so it was a combination, but I kind of fell in love with my conversation and his directness, he's like a tactician, right? The tactical ways. And I was just like, man, this guy's been in every draft room, every draft workout. He speaks with Kevin Durant and Booker and CP3. Mm-hmm. Like, when you can be around greatness, you absorb it. Right. And if I can learn from that, like, come on, man, like that I was like, I'm done. Where do I sign? I got to play a little cool here, but like, where do I sign? Right. And so that got me super excited. And it was just a combination that was at BYU, but that was a big deal to me.
All right. One more question, and then we got 5 quick ones for you, and we'll get you out the door on this Memorial Day night. When you told Lisa that Kevin Young had called, your wife Lisa, what was her first reaction when BYU was back in as a possibility?
She was so excited.
Really?
My wife is one of the most supportive human beings in the world. She's lived in 30-something homes over the last 20 years of our marriage, and so she's willing to drop anything at any time and follow wherever basketball takes me. She was actually very instrumental in terms of my sounding board and thought process of why I should go do this and why I need to go back to BYU and why it'll be so great for our family. She was all in. In fact, during the time where she was a sounding board, she was wearing a blue Nike hoodie, totally like a subconscious way about it. And
so she was she all in before you were all in?
Well, she was, but the only reason for me taking a little bit, it's just difficult conversations I had to have with, players in the other locker room and coaches and things like that. That was the only thing that was kind of holding me back, but she was all in. And then my boys, and so my 15, it gets blown up. Matt Norlander tweets it, and my daughter sends my wife an Instagram screenshot of BYU announcing it, and she's just like, what? So we had to pull over to the car and talk to the boys, and I FaceTime my 2 girls, one's at Oklahoma, one's at Kansas, and I'm FaceTiming them to let them know it's about to explode on the social medias, and so we let everyone know. And They were so excited.
Yeah.
They were so excited to be back. The way they were treated 2 years ago, and they felt so close to the BYU family. Anyway, they're so excited. They got rid of their red gear a little too quick. But
I was going to ask that. The red just went out.
The red went out really quick, and they like got in the car and we went to the bookstore right away so they can grab. We told them, hey, they can grab a couple shirts,
Sure.
and so. They show up to school the next day. And fortunately, people had already kind of heard in their circles. So I was like, isn't it going to be weird? You're going to school and you're now on this side of the fence. And they're like, no, Dad, you don't understand. They're so excited. So
that's awesome.
They're all in. They're so excited to be back in the Marriott Center and to see games and be a part of this family again.
Great. All right, Blaine, 5 questions. Let's go.
Yeah. Hey, Chris, if it hadn't been up with you the last 2 years, we'd have done this before because you would certainly have been on the show before now. So, but we're glad. You just answer these off the top of your head, the first thing that comes to your mind.
Do my best.
So here we go. Your favorite sports movie?
Hoosiers.
Classic.
Yeah, that's the second favorite of the show over 2 years. Number one is Remember the Time.
Oh, that was good. That would have been my second.
There you go. Your favorite singer or band?
Dave Matthews.
Dave Matthews.
Nice. I just was watching a Adam Sandler movie and I forgot he was in it. He's hilarious.
Yeah.
Your favorite breakfast cereal?
Life.
Like Cinnamon
Just
Life or
plain
Straight
life or
Life?
Cinnamon Life?
Plain Life.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Do you put
Nice.
anything on it, or you just get
No, just
you and life?
Yep, me and life.
That's taking life head on.
That's pretty healthy. I'm a little worried about you, but
I
that's cool.
apologize.
I just had Cinnamon Life before I came over to do the show, so there you go.
I might torpedo the next question, but let's ask it anyway.
Yeah, I know he may not even like it, but what's your favorite ice cream?
Ooh, Graham Canyon here at the Creamery on 9th.
Graham Canyon.
One of my favorites.
I've heard great things about it.
Love it.
Yeah.
Absolutely love it.
I have to try it. I haven't had it, but I've heard that's a lot of people's favorites.
Yeah.
So. Okay, and last but not least, your favorite basketball moment. It could be watching as a player, as a coach. Your favorite basketball moment of all time.
Yeah, cutting down the nets, going to the Final Four.
With the Blue
1999,
Devils?
yeah, with the Blue Devils. 1999, we beat Temple in, I should know this, Jersey. So the Meadowlands, I think Meadowlands.
What does it feel like to take the floor with a jersey on to go play in the Final Four?
It's unbelievable. I played at the Tropicana Dome, St. Pete's there in St. Petersburg, Florida, and you honestly felt like a tiny ant to the 60 or 70,000 fans running out there. It takes about 5 minutes to get from the locker room just to the court. But it is pretty surreal. You're in it. You're in the four.
Yeah.
Right. You're in the four, and there's no way to explain it. I think the more and more I look back at it and going back to the Final Four every year with my boys and being like, man, I've been there, done that. Right. Now I didn't win it, but I've been there, done that. So it's something I get to hold on to for the rest of my life.
Taking these Cougs to the Final Four?
Let's do that, man.
Yeah.
That'd be great. I'd love to coach Final Four, man. That's why we're here.
Well, look, we wish you a happy next 72 hours and beyond.
Thank you.
As you continue to build the roster. Chris Burgess, thank you so much for
Thanks so
coming to
much.
the show.
Yeah.
Before you know it, we'll be at the first practice.
Let's go. Thanks, you guys. Appreciate you having me on.
Thank you. Thanks for coming in on this holiday. Chris Burgess.